Hey guys, Matt from Eastwood here in my home garage talking about some of my favorite products. So today what we're talking about is the 7-piece Dura-Block kit. It is kind of the staple in any body shop, and it's been super helpful for me as I'm doing bodywork, sanding filler, getting ready for primer on my Model T project. I kind of grabbed one of these kits and been using the crap out of them because they're really great. So what I want to show you guys today is some great spots where you can use each of these different blocks that might kind of give you guys a jumping point for when you're using them and why you need this kit. Okay, so your 4402 block is kind of your middle of the road block. This is a block that has very little flex to it. Only if you put a lot of pressure does it flex, so it's really good for using pretty much everywhere on the vehicle, blocking nice large panels flat. You can use this. It's a little easier to hold by hand, and you're able to actually block out panels, kind of using it with one hand, which is really nice. But this is kind of like the workhorse of the kit. So the 4403 is the largest block in the kit. This is the one you're definitely going to want to use on larger panels. When you need to block a panel perfectly dead flat, this is the block that you're going to want to use. It's very difficult to use just with one hand, but you can roughen panels one-handed, and then usually what I like to do is actually go to two hands, and you can block and control the block really nicely. Now this block has basically no flex to it, very, very little flex that you can, only if you force on it can flex, which is nice when you're using two hands. You can actually make it form to a panel, but it's not going to flex when you use it one-handed very easily. So this one you're not going to use quite as often, but is necessary for blocking out larger panels that you need them to be really nice and flat. Okay, so the 4404 is our little round block here. This is one that probably won't get used quite as often as some of the large or medium-sized straight blocks, but it's really nice for getting in those tight areas where you may dig holes or put grooves in a panel when trying to use the larger, just standard square blocks. That's where this one comes really in handy. So when you're working in areas that have little curves or a reverse curve in a panel, you can use this to actually kind of scoop and sand in an X pattern at the same time, and you're able to get a nice rounded edge in a panel or able to follow the contour of a panel. Now this block does have quite a bit of flex to it, so it will easily contour to a panel that has a curve to it. So do be careful when you're using this that you don't push too hard and create a flex in the block that's going to actually put an uneven spot when you're sanding the panel. Okay, so this little guy is the 4405. This one has a bunch of flex to it compared to the larger blocks, but it is quite sturdy for being a little small block. This one's great for sanding primer when you're at your point of wet sanding or block sanding your primer to get it really, really flat with your finer grits. This is probably the block that you're going to find is going to be one of the most helpful when you're doing that job. It also is really nice for working in tight areas or small little detail spots when you're doing your body filler as well, because the block does have a little flex to it. You're able to get in corners and kind of work detail areas. We've been using it a lot on my project because there's a lot of beads that run around the body, and we need to get into little corners where the beads intersect and just sand the filler that might have gotten in that area to make sure that all the bead unions are nice and smooth. Okay, so the 4401, this little guy here, is one of the workhorses of the kit, and this is one that I use really, really often because number one, you can use it single-handed, so you're able to take this and really quickly block in an area if you're doing some kind of rough work on a panel. A lot of times I will put the more aggressive grit on here, 40 or 80 grit, to knock down the ridges in body filler, and then I will switch to my more fine grits and finesse the filler and feather all my edges out with another block or possibly this block. This block's also really great for getting into small tight areas because you always want to try and fit your block the best to the area that you're working in. So if you're working in little areas where you may only have less than 12 inches to sand, you can use this block to go back and forth, still get your X pattern So you get a nice smooth finish, but you can also have something that's very sturdy and does not have much flex to it. This block is going to be much more sturdy than the 4405 that we talked about because it is thicker and has very little flex to it, so you can still use it to get nice flat panels. Okay, so the 4400 block is a narrow block that is just a standard rectangular shape, but it is similar in length to our 4402 block here, but the difference is the thickness of the block is quite a bit different. The 4402 is going to have the ridges in it where you will get a little bit more strength to it, so this block's not going to flex as much as the 4400. 4400 is the workhorse block for a lot of guys. It's just a personal preference thing. This block does, like I said, have a little bit more flex, so if you're a beginner, you do have to be careful when you're blocking with this, that you make sure that you have a delicate touch and you're not pressing too hard on either of the ends, because it will sand and dig holes if you're not careful with that. I like to use this block again for doing primer and some of my more delicate body work where you're getting up to your finer grits, because you can get a delicate touch. It's a little lighter and easier to handle with one-handed blocking, so that's how I like to use it, but it is a good all-around block that's good to have in your arsenal. I also like to use it against body line edges where you're trying to just get the filler or primer all feathered out into body line beads. On this vehicle we have a lot of beads, so we're working around all the edges trying to get all of that nice and smooth, and this has been the block that I've been grabbing for to do all that detail edge work around the car. Okay, so the seventh part of the kit is the miracle soap that DuraBlock includes with their kit. This soap is just a crazy good soap for cleaning your hands after you're doing body work or any type of work. It removes dirt from the fingernails, gets your hands really clean, and is a nice little bonus to the kit. So this is the seventh part of the kit, so it's not a block for sanding, but is a good tool for cleaning your hands when you're all done. So that's the DuraBlock 7-piece kit. This is a must-have kit for anyone from a professional all the way to a beginner, and it's something you definitely need in your shop. Now this kit will pretty much cover 99% of all of the block sanding that you'll need to do when doing body work on a car, and you'll find this kit laying around in pieces or different versions in a professional shop. So if you're a beginner or a home hobbyist like myself, you definitely want to grab one of these kits, and it's going to last you a lifetime. To find out more about the products that you saw in this video, you can click the link down below, or you can visit Eastwood.com to get all the tools you need to do the job right.